Hey there, YouTubers! Of all the videos I have ever made on this channel, all 400 and some of them as of 12/5/2020, I have truly only been qualified to talk about one of them, and technically qualified to talk about an additional one. That additional one was my GMO video, and as a farmer, I am kind of qualified to talk about that. And the first one was the economics of YouTube, or what does YouTube, or why does YouTube keep changing, whatever I ended up titling it. Hi there, Dr. Sheep here. Welcome back to another social science video. Been a while. Today we're talking about the basics of economics and supply and demand. To those of you who are questioning how I'm actually qualified, like, is this guy actually going to be able to talk about economics accurately? In only a few months, I will have a bachelor's degree in agricultural economics. That's economics, but instead of widgets, we use food. So, suck it. Today, we'll use widgets. If you don't know what that means, I'll explain it later. Wow, it's later now. Before we define widgets, it's still printing. We need to define economics. If you asked a group of random people what the definition of economics is, most would probably say the study of money. Or Phil,
the scientific study of how goods and services are transmitted between people.
That's close. And what they said is not true, and what he says is close, but still not true. Economics is the study of scarcity and how people deal with scarcity when they have unlimited wants. That's the most basic definition. That unlimited wants is very important because when you really think about it, that is the driving force for all of humanity. Money is a consequence of scarce resource allocation, and it's only 3,000 years old. Before money, people used bartering or trading goods or services for other goods or services. This worked for a long time, and there were probably some money substitutes like gold, silver, salt, or copper. However, there's a problem, and it's time to think like a primitive widget producer. A widget is a representation of a good to eliminate prior knowledge that could skew observations. So as a primitive widget producer, let's say people are still wanting your product, but you don't want the products people have in return, or they don't have the thing you need right now. Money is the solution. It represents the goods or services that you or someone else has or did. When you break it down though, money is a way to put a price on time. This leads us to the next idea of economics, opportunity costs. Now before I move on, the more clever of you may have noticed I have not talked about the two sections of economics. I will, just not right now. Moscow, actually, different intro idea. Opportunity. America used to be the land of opportunity, now it's just land. Think of opportunity costs as what you could do instead of what you're currently doing. You give up those things in exchange for what you're doing now. That is your cost. This is, in my opinion, the fun part of economics. Using the idea of opportunity cost, you can apply a value or number to everything you could possibly ever do. Now this is where I lose all of you because you could be watching a Mr. Beast video right now. But instead, you chose your education. You picked education because you were thinking in the long run. Where there's a long run, there's a short run. Now, economists have defined these with somewhat specific values, but they vary between circumstances. These time frames are used in analyzing models which economists love and I hate. In the short run, Mr. Beast videos give you immediate gratification, and the happiness won't last long, but you really enjoy it. Now let's say you choose to watch my video. In the long run, you will be happy by passing your test, getting a good job, and hopefully it pays well. Interesting how just changing your mindset by adding more time changes your opportunity cost. Wow! How did I go down and then I came... What? Okay, I think you're ready for the law of demand. The law of demand states, as price increases, the quantity demanded decreases. This can be represented algebraically and graphically, and is inverse relationship between price and quantity. As one increases, the other decreases. This is due to the idea of diminishing marginal utility. The first unit a consumer uses is the most satisfying. Every unit consumed afterwards is less satisfying. Therefore, the consumer is willing to pay less for each additional unit consumed. Okay? This will be useful in finding the formula for the law of demand. For the more econ literate of you, you will recognize this as the inverse because of hoodoo, voodoo, magic-y econ stuff. But for everyone else, just use this. Price, or P, which we're going to use as our formula for Y, is equal to B, your price or Y-intercept. This is the theoretical maximum price consumers are willing to pay for 0 items. If that makes sense, it's the intercept, all right? Minus the slope of the demand curve, which is the elasticity of demand, multiplied by Q. This deviates from the standard slope-intercept form for a line as an easier way to show that the slope of the demand curve is always, always, always negative. It can be broken, but for the most part, it's always negative. Okay, it's time to graph. Now I'm going to go kind of fast because you should already know how graphs work. All right? Let's say we have a demand curve of P equals 8 minus Q. All right, for these working along at home, write this down. P equals 8 minus Q. All right? Now we move on to our graph. It's a basic graph. Y-axis, x-axis, all right? Except our Y will be labeled P for price, and our X will be labeled Q for quantity. All right? So, since this is just, it's a little different, just a little different from your normal Y equals mx plus b formula, we know that our y-intercept, or in this case our p-intercept, is 8. We can plot that on the graph, and this is 8. Now, because our slope is technically minus 1, you should know this from algebra. When this is minus 1, this minus sign here is a minus 1. Knowing that, we know that our x-intercept, or q-intercept in this case, is going to be 8. Now, if your slope is anything other than minus 1, any other negative number, you will have to plug 0 into P and solve for Q. I can show you that here. Okay? We plug 0 equals 8 minus Q. We subtract 8 across, subtract 8. We have minus 8 equals minus Q. We divide by minus 1, divide by minus 1, and we get 8 equals Q, and we plug that in the graph. So now, you would plot, arguably you'd go and plot more points, but we don't need to do that. We just draw a straight line, or as straight as I can draw, right across, and we label this as D1, demand curve 1. This entire graph can be referred to as a market. Now, to truly complete this, you need the supply curve. Now, you may have noticed I keep using the term curve. This is because a demand curve, it truly is curved. If you took every single human on the planet Earth and asked them, how much are you willing to pay for a kilogram of widgets? Between 1 to 8 kilograms, whatever, asked them how much you want to pay for each one of these kilograms, and plotted it, you would get a curve. Now, unlike physics, econ laws are somewhat easily broken, especially the law of supply. Law of demand is not so easily broken, but it has been broken a few times. It requires very extreme conditions, but it is possible. There are 2 types of goods that result from this situation. Giffen goods, Giffen, and Veblen goods, Veblen. Giffen goods are low-value goods. Most noticeably, this happened in the Irish potato famine. potatoes became a given good. Enabling goods are high-value, high-quality goods. These are a result of people associating higher price with higher quality and are willing to pay more for less, thinking it's the best quality. This actually happens a lot in the modern era with technology. So the law of demand tends to get broken more often than it used to. Whoa, I don't know what happened. This is like take 8. The law of supply is more difficult for people to understand because they're used to being a consumer, and therefore thinking in the opposite mindset is difficult because the supplier is doing the opposite. The law of supply states that as prices increase, the quantity supplied also increases. This is a direct relationship because firms or businesses want to supply products at the highest price. This allows for them to make the most profit. What is profit, though? For those of you that don't know. Let's whip out my handy dandy marker. Oh, here it is. Computer fell asleep, even though I don't need it. Profit is represented by pi. Okay? Which is equal to total revenue, TR, minus total costs. Don't worry about what total costs are. It's just everything that needs to be made to go in, all the costs that go into a product. Okay, that's all you need to know. Not going to go into the formula. Total revenue is TR, which is equal to the quantity supplied, Q, times the price they're sold at, P. Simple as that. On to the supply curve. Alright, and please be mature, because I'm not. P for price is equal to the minimum price a firm is willing to charge. We'll call this BS. Just differentiate it from B over in demand. Alright? Plus, because the supply curve's slope, MS, is always positive. Unless you're dealing with a monopoly. We'll get into that. Times Q. That is the supply curve formula. Alrighty. Let's do some plotting, shall we?
Yay!
Alrighty. Let's remember that demand curve.
Is it a plot against to destroy the Jedi?
It is not.
Are you recording?
Yes, we're recording.
Oh shoot! Restart.
No, we don't restart. Alright, your demand curve is P.
You're gonna restart or else I'm gonna interrupt you every time so you can't get a video.
Why? This is funny.
Because I despise you.
P equals 8 minus Q for our demand curve. And let's have a new supply curve of P equals 1 plus Q. Alright? Simple as that. Now, I'm not going to go into grave detail of how to do the whole graph over again. You should already know how to do that. You've already seen me do it. So don't worry about it. If you don't understand it, you can rewind it or, go back to basic algebra, alright? If you don't know how to do a stupid graph, you have a problem, okay? Alright, so let's plot the supply curve. So we know from basic algebra that 1 is our y-intercept, or in this case, our p-intercept. So we plot that at plus 1. And we now know, also from basic algebra and from what I told you earlier, our supply curve was always a positive, and in this case it's positive 1. So we can just assume it's some sort of graph like that. Alrighty, that is, and then you can label that S1. Oh god, I labeled that as 8. That's not supposed to be right. S1. And this is D1. Simple as that. Now, the law of supply can be broken. It doesn't happen very often, but it can. It tends to be broken by monopolies. A monopoly is when a firm or business, I'm going to refer to businesses as firms, so when a firm controls most of the market. However, if a competitor, smaller one, very small, shows up and challenges the controlling firm by charging a price lower than theirs, the monopoly, with its large amount of power and large amounts of revenue reserves, can charge a lower price than their own cost, assuming that the competitor has the same cost for the product they can beat the competitor out of the market, and in this case, they are supplying less than they're actually willing to. Therefore, your supply curve would be negative. But that doesn't last long. Once the competitor's gone, or once the competitor's hurt enough, then the monopoly will turn to standard pricing practices. Okay, I had to redo this because I got distracted and I erased it. I erased the wrong thing. So the point where these two lines meet is the market equilibrium, and the equilibrium price and quantity. These can be found by setting the two equations equal to each other. So we'll do that. So we'll take our demand curve, 8 minus Q, if I could write a Q correctly. 8 minus Q, set that equal to our supply curve, which is 1 plus Q. So there we go. If you're following along at home, write that down. Alrighty. So we're going to do some algebra here. So I'm just going to quickly buzz through this. Plus Q, minus 1, you get 7 equals 2Q. Okay? Basic algebra. If you don't know this, you have a problem. Why are you in economics then? Divide by 2, and you get 3.5 equals Q. We can now take this and plug it into either one of these equations for price, and we should get the same answer. So we'll plug it up into our supply curve because that's easier. So we set price equal to 1 plus 3.5. We get 4.5. There you go. That's a price. $4.5, euros, whatever you were using at home. Or whatever they use in Brazil. What do they use in Brazil? I don't know. Either equation should be the same answer. However, this point is not always constant. It changes, especially if the supply or demand curve shifts. A shift in the demand curve can be caused by it happens when the entire demand curve shifts left or right. If your demand curve shifts left, label that D2, that is a decrease in demand. If the demand curve shifts right, D3, we call this an increase in demand. Now obviously, if the shift right happens before the shift left, it'll be D2 and all along, whatever the case may be. You do this in chronological order when it happens. Now, notice the slope does not change. That would affect the elasticity, and that is a different video for a different day. The change in demand can be caused by many things. Consumer preference changes, population changes, changes in price of a complementary or substitute goods, or a change in income. The demand curve is demand. This line is what you would refer to as demand. A point along that curve is the quantity demanded. Okay? Line, entire demand. Point, quantity demanded. You have to remember this. This was crucial. I saw a lot of people screw this up when I was taking my basic economics classes, and even I screwed it up once. You have to get it right, or you will miss very easy questions. I never screwed up on a test. I screwed up in person in class, and I looked like an idiot. So don't screw it up. Get it right. I'll go over it again. The entire demand curve is demand. A point along the demand curve, or along the demand, is the quantity demanded. Alright, now let's talk about what shifts your supply curve, shall we? And what that happens. An increase in supply shifts your supply curve right. Okay? That's an increase in supply. You get S2. A decrease in supply shifts it left. S3. Okay, as a firm is willing to supply less at a higher price. Easy, plain and simple. Now, a change in supply can be caused by the change in number of firms, the weather during production, if we're talking about agricultural products, the change in price of the inputs to produce the products, the change in the effectiveness of said inputs, or the technology changes. I was going to say, and I'm still going to say, so technology changes are usually associated with the increase in supply. However, if we're talking about environmental economics and referring to a pollution supply curve, then better technology would lead to a decrease in the supply of said pollution. So both can be effective. Technology can affect it both ways in specific situations to get decrease. Okay, again, you will notice that the slope did not change. Again, that'll be a different video for a different day. The supply curve is the supply. All right? Is the supply. The supply curve, the line, is the supply. And the point along the supply curve is the quantity supplied. Same deal with the demand curve, all right? You have to get this right. You will miss questions if you don't get it right. The entire line is the supply, okay? And a point along the line is the quantity supplied, okay? All right. I can show you this on a much more basic diagram, right? If this is confusing you, right? We'll do our demand curve, then our supply curve, right? That's one, okay? The entire line, this is supply, all right? And a point is QS, quantity supplied. Get this right, please. And when you do get it right, you can tell your professors or teachers that you learned it from me and get them to subscribe. Okay, before we move on to the two sections of economics, if you have any questions or want individual videos on some of these concepts, just ask nicely in the comments, please. Okay, there are two sections of economics. I'm going to draw a Venn diagram. Here, I literally have not drawn a Venn diagram since sometime in high school, alright? Micro and macro. Alrighty. Hope that doesn't look too provocative. Okay. There are two sections of economics, micro and macro. Microeconomics deals with individual firms, people, and small sections of markets. Macroeconomics deals with the economy as a whole, like the entire U.S. economy, Nebraska's economy. That might almost be micro. Again, it's blurry. The lines between these two are blurry. Like maybe the entire U.S. corn market or the entire international corn market, but that could also be put into micro. It's blurry there. But both use different models. But some of the concepts go back and forth between the two, like production functions and utility functions. I don't really want to do videos on those, so I'm not going to, so don't ask. Oh my god. What a video, I tell you what. That was more than I was expecting. I wish I had split this up into different videos, because these things are easily understood by me because I've been studying them for 3.5 years. 4 years, I guess, because if we count high school, the half year of high school and 3 years, not 3.5, not 4, 3, because I've spent 2.5 in college, and I had that half semester, and I had the semester in high school, and that wasn't even a full semester, so. Yeah, sorry, it was probably really exhausting and a lot for you guys to take in. Like, you can always break it down, watch it individually. It's a lot, I know. But this is basically half of your entire high school economics course condensed into one video, and then about a month's worth of college economics, the intro classes anyways, condensed down into one video. So it's a lot. I did a lot. And I probably should split them up into other videos. If you want that to happen, or you have any questions, leave a comment, please. Anyways, in the meantime, I'd like to thank you all for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. New videos every other Friday, 11 a.m. Central Time, and good night. Subs for trees. Subs for trees. Subs for trees. Subs for trees. Oh, you're still here? I thought I told you to go home. Oh, you want more? I'm flattered. Check out the playlist. If you want exclusive content, check out my Instagram, Dr_sheep_YouTube. That's all lowercase. If you want to help the earth, subscribe. When I reach 100 subscribers, I'm going to plant 10 trees. If you feel that's too small, then check out my channel chart where I lay out even bigger goals. Finally, stick around for the next 20 seconds to give me that sweet watch time. Bye.